And here we go on our Hey Mary Kay edition of the Orange and Brown Talk podcast. Mary Kay, let's get right to it. From the 304 area code, of course, people want to talk extensions. This one has to do with the Nick Chubb extension. So, hey, Mary Kay, the extension of Nick Chubb is the most pressing issue that our Football Insider subscriber here has. Extending running backs is a debatable issue, but this person feels as though Chubb is not your typical running back and is such an integral part of the Browns offense. So what are your thoughts on whether and how much the Browns should pay and extend Nick Chubb?
Well, I think that Nick Chubb and his agents are going to feel as though he should be paid as one of the top 3 or 4 running backs in the NFL, which would put him up into the stratosphere of, some of them are making, I think the top one is Christian McCaffrey at, I think he's at around $16 million a year. And then it goes down to about $12 million a year. So I would have to think that Nick Chubb and his agents are going to want him to be paid at least around $12 or $13 million a year. Now, that's not really something that, that the analytics folks really like to do with a running back on their second contract, because the numbers usually don't bear that out, that it's worth it. But as our subscriber mentioned, Nick is not your average running back. He does sort of transcend the position in a lot of ways. He's arguably the best pure runner in the NFL. There are dual threat running backs that do more and do different things. But Nick is the best, or one of the best pure runners in this league. So I think he's going to be worth an extension. I think they're going to work hard to get it done. And I also think that there's some goodwill and some PR. I think the Browns understand that that's part of it when you're talking about Nick Chubb. You can't really, turn your back on a Nick Chubb or try not to pay him what he's worth, even though that's might be the analytics way of doing things. That's just not going to fly. So I think that they will pay him the extra money it will take to get this thing done. I also think they will try to be very creative with incentives and give him an opportunity to achieve and make all the money that he believes he's worth and the Browns believe he's worth. And I think they'll come up with something that works for the club and works for Nick. One more thing real quick on this is that Nick has already stated that this is where he wants to be. He doesn't like the uncertainty of starting all over somewhere else. I think that will also work in the Browns' favor. I see them getting something done.
I think they will too. And, it's one of those things where it's always risky paying a running back. And, we've said this a million times on this pod. The guy that you always say is the guy you have to pay ends up not being the guy you have to pay. But I just don't see the risk in paying Nick Chubb. You add 4 years to the deal. You can get out of it if you need to. He's either great for 4 years, or if you need to get out of it later, you can. And for people who are concerned, I just wanted to look this up. For people who are concerned about the other extensions coming, Patrick Mahomes' cap number this year is $7.4 million. And he signed that huge extension. So, if they extend Baker, it's not going to kick in right away. They're going to get creative with the cap numbers. They're going to do all of that stuff. Same with Denzel Ward. They're going to be able to manipulate the cap however they need to fit everybody in. So I don't think Nick Chubb is going to prevent them from extending anybody else.
Yeah, no, I don't think so either. And it's funny that you bring up that Patrick Mahomes contract, because I've talked to some people that have poked some holes in that contract of Patrick's. As we've talked about many times, usually the number that you use to discuss a contract, and when you're talking about highest paid in the league, it's the average per year that these guys are getting. And Patrick is tops amongst quarterbacks with $45 million a year. But if you have that contract up there, Dan, I think that his signing bonus was not that big. I think his guaranteed money in the deal is somewhere around $141 million or something like that. But the signing bonus was not that big at all. It was actually rather small, like $10 million or something like that. And the contract is spread out over 10 years. So there were some people that I talked to that didn't think that deal looked as good as it did at first blush. But some of the other deals that quarterbacks have received recently, like Dak Prescott, Deshaun Watson, and some of the other ones are, just the typical 4 or 5 year deal with the huge signing bonus. I would expect that Baker will receive a signing bonus in the 30s. And that's another reason why, the timing can be significant, because, you got to go to the bank and you got to get, You have to get that money out, right? Like today when you sign that contract. So, if you can hold off on that a little bit, there is a little bit of wisdom in that.
Yeah, I've got Mahomes' contract up here, and it would take 2 hours to go through this whole thing. But
Right.
if people have a chance, go to auth-danderse-auth and look up Patrick Mahomes' contract, and you'll kind of see. Now, the cap numbers get big. They get into the 40s, they get into the 50s towards the end. But I don't know if this contract in its current iteration isn't going to see 2031. It's going to get renegotiated and redone probably 50 times before then. So it's a pretty complicated $500 million contract, to say the least.